that to know, discover, and publish, it is the destiny of a researcher. And of course, in these times, we all know that the academic success totally depends on how well we publish. To cope these issues, because we know that new students as well as even the old ones mostly face these problems regarding publication. So we have tried to solve this issue in our today's talk. Today we have Assistant Professor Dr. Noor Muhammad Akmal with us. His talk will be discussing these issues regarding new researchers and especially from the students' perspective. Let me just introduce briefly Dr. Akmal. Dr. Akmal is assistant professor at the School of Information Science at Japan Advanced Institute of Science and Technology. His PhD degree is from USM in 2018, and his research interests include regarding AI systems and techniques, search algorithms, optimization techniques, game analytics, and game informatics. So without further ado, I would like to invite Dr. Muhammad Noor Akmal to please share his talk regarding the nooks and crannies of scientific research publication from a student's perspective. Over to you, Dr. Akmal. Thank you so much.
All right, thank you very much, the moderator, and thank you for all the organizer for inviting me for today. So, let me know if the connection is slow or my voice is lost or something, right? Okay. Anyway, for those who doesn't know me, my name is Muhammad Noor Akmal. I'm previously ex-student from USM. Currently, fourth year of my assistant professor work in JAIS, and also current research fellow in USM. So today, the topic that I'm going to cover is more or less on how can you, understand the detail and small things that, being hidden from the student perspective in terms of publishing your work. So, so I would like to frame all this content into the big five, I think. The what, how, where, why, and finally the end. So the first thing is the what. This we're focusing on what are the composition of your research and what are the level of detail that you should provide in terms of your work in when you want to publish your research. So before we start, I know that most of you have been there, meaning being stuck or going through a lot of draft and revision, and even sometimes doesn't have any idea generated. So yeah, I've been there before as well, so I know what you feel. But of course, if you have better understanding of the process of the scientific research, right, and you know what the component exists within them, it actually helps you to be better in terms of uh, writing your research and publishing it. First, I would like to say that when we try to compose scientific research, right, you need to uh, make something that are very complex into much more simpler form. Because whenever you have a simpler form of much more complex problem, it's easier for you to handle it and easier for you to solve it, right? And I think in in my own observation as well, right, the basic component involved but in particular the perception of reality whenever we try to observe certain things from our research. And from there actually you can actually find some facts that like verify information from past research, right? And this actually something that are already provable or already measurable. But what makes scientific research is interesting is that you have certain construct, meaning that some attribute or idea that cannot be measured directly without certain indicator, concept, model, or construct, right? And before we actually can play around with this, right, you need to have a good definition of what your research should be, in term of conceptual and in term of the operational, meaning that how you going to do your research, right? So conceptually, how you can define something by associating the characteristic and the meaning of your research. So what does it mean in your research, right? And from the operational point of view is to define your research based on how you measure this construct. So let's take example of intelligence. So let's say your research has some kind of intelligent concept, right? So you need to define properly what this intelligence is from the conceptual and the operational point of view. So from the conceptual, maybe you have some previous researcher that actually have actually proven certain concept and actually give you a bit of conceptual definition of intelligence. Of course, in terms of operational, how they actually did it actually is by using certain method or certain tests or certain scale and so on, or certain algorithm, certain system to actually get the resulting, definition. Then after that, after we have all that component, right? It's important to actually have certain way of communicating that particular definition, observation, concept, construct, and so on that are understandable to everyone, right? So in this way, you need to have your own variable, your own hypothesis, your own argument, you know. So this variable can be any characteristic. It can vary, you know, depending on what kind of construct and what kind of things that you research. And then hypothesis as well is the something that empirically testable. So meaning that if you actually want to solve certain problem, right? You want to define or measure certain construct or concept, you need to have a very solid way or concrete way to actually measure it. Not just just coming from a thin air. It's not really let's say sustainable for your research. And then you need to have certain reasoning to actually why you come to that particular hypothesis, why you consider this variable, so that you can explain, interpret, challenge, defend, and explore your you know your research work. And variable can be multiple things, right? And let's take example to actually convey this communication. So for example, let's say why the problem is why sale did not increase, right? So maybe promotion is conducted, but no sale increase. So this what we want to have reasoning that maybe the hypothesis come from promotional campaign poorly executed. So from here we can induce certain thing, and from there as well we can define what are the variable and what are the hypotheses actually, and also in a way sometimes maybe the problem is not yet there, so you need to have your own hypothesis first and you deduce it from certain method or algorithm or testing, so that you can identify the problem. So yeah, again, you can actually do a deduction. Either it's in fact because of effective promotion or effective promotion. So if you effective promotion, then the sale will increase. So these are the resulting hypothesis, and of course you can have more than one hypothesis, right? So yeah, so it's important here to actually, connect the dot. That's why I put the title connecting the dot, meaning that whenever you have your variable, right, how your variable interact in the hypothesis and how this hypothesis interact with your argument, So you need to have, you have to connect all this properly. It's like when you're talking to someone, right? If you're just talking only your point and you don't give any introduction, you don't connect your sentences and so on, people don't understand what you're trying to say, right? So yeah, and then from there you can complete your scientific research by having both coherent and story driven, meaning that from your observation just now you can identify your facts and construct, and from there you can define your conceptual and operational definition of your research. And you can conduct your experiment in order for you to communicate whatever you want to do in your research. And from there you will get your findings, right? And these findings will be reflect back to everything uh, from the start. So from there you can actually relate to, a part of your research study, which is the background, previous work, research aim, research methodology, and finding. And these are just one way of doing it. Sometimes you can actually, cycle certain thing and also repeat certain things. But as long as it addresses previous work and reflect back to the background, then it should be okay. So let's take one example again, the sales just now. So the background here focusing on sale is crucial in business survival, right? So how to uh how to actually find to improve it, you have to find problem or the gap, right? So for example, let's say that sales depend on promotion stuff and product, right? And then you want to improve sale and measure effectiveness. So your method will include, some kind of effective promotion campaign. Okay, excuse me. Anyway, from there you can decide level of detail and content flow of your work or your publication. So in general, you have introduction, method, result, and discussion. But of course, some might argue that you need literature review as well, right? Of course, sometimes literature review can be incorporated into the introduction, but it depends. So that's why sometimes you need to know your target genre and also what are the type of your audience wants. Sometimes they don't really care about literature review and so on, as long as you properly conduct your research, right? So the content usually have abstract. So this abstract usually reflect a short version of your work. So you need to use few sentences, and method always needed to be described in your abstract, and maybe some concise result summary, and conclusion should give some perspective in your abstract. And then in your introduction, I think among the important thing, the most important part of your, I think, uh, most important part of your publication, right? It's actually the introduction itself. I believe it's in the introduction because usually if you become a reviewer later on or you become researcher, right, when you review other people's works, right, you always see the introduction and abstract, right? But other part maybe much later in your research progress. That's why the introduction is good to set the stage first, and you need to know why this work, is needed. Why basically, if you say you want to propose something, right? So why you want to propose it? What are the benefit? What are the purpose? What are the goal? What how can it improve real world problem and so on. And usually at the end of the introduction, you try to provide your hypothesis and research question. Then material and method. mm, This usually involves, very meticulous and comprehensive, and usually involving measurement and your experimental design and so on. But of course, this is where the heart of your research is, right? And this is where you are not referring or you are not copying from someone else. You're doing it by yourself, right? So that's why it's important to be very meticulous and very accurate and produce something that are reproducibility, high reproducibility, meaning that any detail can be reproduced. If let's say people want to redo your experiment, they can redo it properly and accurately. You know, if you can provide that much detail, right, then your method and material are very good. And then your result analysis, right, this is where you report your finding. And sometimes you use figure and table for details. And at this point, if you use statistic, right, you try to avoid type 2 error, right? Meaning that false positive, I think. Uh, and at this point, you try to minimize unnecessary text, meaning that you're just describing what your result is and what are the table and figure are showing. That's it. Don't go further than that. In the discussion, you want to focus on what are the main findings, what are the perspective, what are the limitation, what are the result that you get and how you get it and why you get it, and why it different or why it differ compared to the previous work. And finally, your conclusion, try not to repeat your result. Usually conclusion, you try to put closure to your work. Basically, you try to put a summary of what you have done, and then from there, what are the future work and what are the sometimes limitation can be put here as well. Meaning that let's say you use deep learning, right, for example, then one of the limitation of deep learning is that you require a very high computing power, right? That's, for example, limitation. you know so that's the what actually. So what are the content that you need in your scientific publishing, then how you can actually do it effectively. So these are something that I borrowed from some other talk, and of course I asked the permission. But if you want to know more detail, you can see from the reference later on. So this will cover 3-point analysis, and from that analysis help in the construction of title and introduction, and of course try to see from mind the figure as well. So 3-point analysis involving value of the work, meaning that you try to highlight the benefit, the achievement, the contribution of the work. you know what are you trying to enable, what are the performance that you try to achieve. Is it widely applicable, is it simple, is it parallel, is it symmetrical, something like that. uh, and then from there you try to use a trick, we call it. The first point is value, the second point is trick. This trick is actually how you can actually achieve this value. So this trick actually refer to the solution that naturally lead to the value. For example, if let's say you use new component, you use new measure, you use new model, new structure, new process, new cost, new ingredient or combination, or maybe previously people use a lot of component. You want to reduce the redundancy, remove redundancy remover. So yeah, and then from there, is it the problem is solved or not? So problem actually is the opposite of value. So usually problems are identified from previous research and very relevant research as well. For example, the one that very close to your work, for example, it's a good source for you to know what are the problem in your domain. And then problem can be totally new as well. So value is obtained whenever the problem is gone. So this process can be cyclic and can be repeated and can be, go back and forth. For example, value can come back to problem, and then maybe we find it problem is not very accurate, then we have to go back to the value and so on. And of course, you need to define again the trick. Trick actually is the solution. So usually we don't focus much on the trick. Usually we focus more on the value and problem. And how deep you're focusing on the value and problem is basically reflect how big the contribution is. you know so for example, if you're master research, right, producing new component can be if you let's say you produce a better performance can be enough for a master research, but for PhD might not be. You need to have versatility, for example, and include something, enable something as well at the same time. I don't know, it can be many things, and it's very highly subjective. Then we can see from example, let's say we have this publication, right? So let's say you want to extract, what are the values, what are the problem, what are the trick, you know. So you can see from the abstract and the title, gamification intensity in web-based virtual training environment and its effect on learning. So we can say that the trick might involve some kind of gamification intensity and some form of web-based virtual training environment. And the value might be on learning, you know. And what are the problem? So since we cannot get from the title, we can get from the abstract maybe. So you can see say that an important given manifold design option implement gamification environment, an important but underexplored research area is how the composition of gamification element affect learning, you know. So you need to advance this research area once you identify key design element. So this might be the research problem as well. So you can see, for example, the value from this paper, example of this paper, okay. Maybe from your case might be different. So value maybe to for identify what are the effect of composition of gamification element that affects learning. And then there are several problems actually. Problem one, what are the effect of gamification element? Maybe effect, not effect, I think, sorry. And then effect in learning environment, you know. And then the trick is to use virtual training environment and to use varied gamification intensity. You know, so you can identify this value problem and trick by reading further. And you can reverse engineer as well. You know, we need that from here. You can actually design, you know, let's label this ABC, right? And design your own introduction and title. So let's say we want to construct a title from this, right? Let's say you identify value, problem, and trick by yourself, no? Not from other paper work. So problem can be from other people's work, but the value and the trick need to be defined by yourself. You know, for example. So if you want to construct the title, right? Usually we try to define it based by using the A plus trick C actually. Sorry. Oh, I this is some minor mistake. Sorry. So you want to define the title D. So let's say we define several title, right? For example, D1 and D2. So A actually is composition of gamification element. So we put this composition gamification element. And then C is the trick, right? You can put both trick or one either trick, right? So virtual training environment and varied gamification intensity, you know. So it become very long, right? But don't worry. So we can include certain, you know, conjunction or disjunction at between this element, like using and on, in or something based on. And then the reverse also can work. For example, like utilizing, maybe you can put your own how to say uh at term utilizing virtual environment and varied gamification intensity um, based on gamification element. So maybe it doesn't make sense yet. So that's where you can improve, you know, where what are the new element that you want to include or you want to do in your research. For example, you have value and trick, right? And then what are the new things you want to do, for example, so we can get the final title like the one from the example, right? Basically gamification. So both this have gamification, this have gamification, so you can actually combine it. And then intensity is from the trick, right? So virtual learning environment and learning is actually, you know, on the problem. And these are the things that we want to new things that you want to include. For example, the intensity and its effect. Okay, so we can have any other title as well. So it's a good way to actually start your title because to me, I think I'm not sure for all of you, But to me, I think when writing a paper, right, it's a good when publishing a paper, it's good to have a good title first, so that you can have a good focus on what are the topic and content of your paper. If not, then you feel like what are you trying to do in your paper, right? So you don't have any direction or goal. So by having a good title first, it's a good start. Of course, title can change later on, no problem. Everything can change, Lisa. So yeah. And then from the 3 point analysis as well, you can also construct your introduction as well. So let's say you have the value just now, right? So you can discuss how this value benefit daily life or your work as starting point of your introduction. And then give a brief background, maybe focusing on certain very key works or key literature from your domain. Excuse me. Weather a bit dry here, so usually coughing a little bit. Sorry about that. And then from this brief background, right, you can either do either one of these or all of it. For example, who or when did what, and how it was done. Let's say certain people or in certain year, right, did propose or designs certain method, and they actually achieve something, right? Yeah, so you can focus on certain feature and contribution, but you can identify what are the unsolved problem by looking at the future work. you know that's actually the trick whenever you want to find your problem in your domain. Usually if you didn't have any inspiration to look at the what kind of problem, right, try to see paper that you really like, right, and then try to see from the future work. There you can find what kind of improvement or unsolved problem that you can solve, and provide new value. And then from the most relevant work just now, right, you can focus on one or more relevant method to highlight what are the problem. And then finally, you can come to this work or this paper or this article or this study, propose what are the trick that you want to propose just now, and also the structure of the paper. So usually, introduction structure should be as short as possible, but try to be at least in one page. So this can be one paragraph, one or two paragraph, one and a half or one or two paragraph, one paragraph and one paragraph. Okay, so that's about title introduction. Now we come to the figure. So whenever you present or you have your result, right, there is a tendency to use table, right? But table, I believe figure are much better than table, as long as your data are not too much, right? Of course, you have to present it in certain way. But if you use figure, right, you need to have certain key element or key focus that you need to keep in mind. One of it is actually to know your audience. So whenever you know your audience, you will convey the correct information, right? So different audience can have different interpretation.
Excuse me, Dr. Rahman.
Yes, yes.
Can you, do you want a short break, like just to get relaxed?
It's okay. It's okay.
Okay.
Because it's not the time is not too long already.
All
So
right.
I have a lot of things to cover. Mhm.
Sure, sure. Thank you.
No, it's okay. It happens. No problem. Anyway, let me continue. From this figure, right? These are example of figure that focusing on the cancer in US in the US, you know, and these are figure that are remade from the original figure, and this figure have a very clear message, right? It's very clear, right? You know that these are new cases, these are death, and you can see clearly that new cases always higher than death, right? And sometimes only some maybe quite similar. But the problem is they are not precise, because you cannot get a clear number for each of this bar, right? So this is actually very good to general audience to give a brief, to give a big picture understanding of, uh, what are the content or what are the uh, focus of this figure. But for scientific publishing, you require an actual numerical value that show in this figure. And of course, if not, you can give this elsewhere, maybe in your text and your caption for and so on. And it's interesting to come to the second point actually. Caption is not optional, you know, because I review a lot of paper, and many people tend to see that caption is something that just a brief description of your figure, you know, but it's not necessarily true. You can actually explain how to read your figure. For example, what are this gray line is what, red is what, and this scale is what, you know, what number, and so on. And additional precision, you know, caption can provide additional precision that cannot be graphically represented. Something like a relationship between this cancer, or maybe certain thing or certain pattern or certain something that cannot graphically represented. I don't have any good example to describe it, but yeah. And visual distinction. It's good to have visual distinction in your caption as well. Sometimes you can mention like lung cancer have how many. If you depend on figure alone, right? Your caption doesn't explain, right? You don't have the exact number, you know. That's why in scientific publishing, if let's say you have this kind of figure, maybe your caption can provide the number, you know, meaning that lung cancer for women have 90,000 something. I don't know, right? So you need to give clear numerical value, distinction line, for example, like this one, right? 50,000 mark, right? You have a distinction line. Okay, 10,000, 100,000 mark have a distinction line. And then you have a point of interest. You need to have a point of interest, like you want to focus on certain thing, like you, let's say, this study focusing on lung cancer. So you need to highlight the lung cancer, not just showing the figure. You need to highlight it. And you want to, let's say you want to focus on prostate cancer or breast cancer, you know, so you need to highlight it, uh, give some kind of indication, bold or something, right, to actually distinguish it from other type of uh how to say decoration. And then another point is to adapt to support medium. These are example of dual particle system trajectory simulation. Of course, this is not my experiment actually. So uh, you can see that these are very detailed, right? Uh, these are very detailed, you know, but these are very bare minimum, right? So these are depending on, viewing time. For let's say for this one, right? These are very good for your journal, but these are very good for your poster because people have limited time to view your figure. So they don't really have time to actually see either this line is actually clashing or not, or just side by side, something like that. What are the general pattern, what are the main thing that you want, so you left the bare essential. So depending on where you want to show your figure, right, or to who you want to show your figure, you need to adapt it, adapt your figure, and then avoid misleading reader because some data should be shown objectively as possible, but some tool might mislead. Some let's say you draw using certain tool, right? Certain software, then it conduct automatic rescaling, for example. You'll see the example after this. So these are just one example or two example. On the left side, you have, both of them have the same value, 30, 20, 15, and 10. But because they use different value of the circle, right? For example, at the top you use the area, the bottom you use the radius. So because of that, it looks very distinct, right? But actually, these are showing the same data, you know. So the rule of thumb here is to use the simplest type of plot, let's say bar or line chart. Okay. And sometimes if let's say you need to use this kind of figure, right? Ask your colleague or friend to actually interpret your figure so that it doesn't mislead. You know. The second one actually is another uh, perception range perception problem. So the black one is y-axis. They don't have y-axis here, right? Just to show the point, right? The black is 0 to 100. So it looks very similar, right? But if let's say uh, you scale it, the range from 80 to 100, you can see the same data have very distinct pattern. Of course, these are from 80 to 100 because it means that it very focused at this upper part, right? And because of that, data looks very distinct. Yeah. So try not to mislead your reader whenever you do your figure. And then avoid chart junk. Example, remove unnecessary or confusing visual element. Example, these are overlapping of a lot of series, right? And then you can see from the axis, the title of the axis also collapsing. How to say? Mm, Combining or something. To avoid that, maybe try to these are the same thing, but repeated seven times. They still have other series as well in that sense, but instead of you know too colory and too grid light, right, you just use grayscale color to actually represent this range -1 to 1, and then the line focus on which series that you want to focus here, and the other just a gray line, to show certain pattern. So these are a good example of removing chart junk. And finally, when using a figure, right, you need to focus on message, not beauty. The best practice is to know the best practice in your scientific domain. For example, in a certain domain or field, right, you already have pre uh, well-known method of representing your data. Let's say in machine learning, right? For example, you have confusion metric and so on. So don't reinvent the wheel. Just use the same thing that other people use very clearly, and because it's facilitate comparison and help to identify errors. And from here, these are example from robotic study, right? They want to show, human comfort level against robot, right? Uh, Although these are actually approximation, draw by hand, right? If I draw by hand, if I'm not mistaken, from the original research, but it still convey the message. It doesn't have to be exact. And of course, the study as well is actually very theoretical anyway. So yeah, that's why message is important. Don't focus too much on color, decoration, and so on. Okay, so the next part is on the where you can publish your research. So you can actually focus on proceeding versus or journal, right? And these are what we call as primary literature. You can have secondary literature and tertiary literature as well, and some are called grey literature. So primary literature are the one that coming from proceeding and journal, and some proceeding can be secondary as well. But review like systematic review and so on can be secondary literature because you're reviewing or you're including other people work. You are not producing original work, right? That's why some article they call original article or original research work, because it's a primary literature. There are no, coming from someone else, something like that. And then proceeding, the comparison between proceeding and journal, I think most of you already know. And even the proceeding uh can be short version of paper like abstract or extended abstract, tutorial, position paper, and even regular paper can be long depending on the column. But the purpose of proceeding usually to collaborate, discuss, get feedback from other people, from international audience, and it's good if let's say you have some early or preliminary works, meaning your work is not finished yet. You don't know, you're stuck, right? You don't know what to do next, right? So maybe by publishing in proceeding will help you to get, feedbacks like oral presentation, poster presentation. I think you have virtual poster presentation in this session, right? Previous session. So yeah, it helps you to, if let's say you publish a poster presentation, it helps you to get feedbacks, and improve your work. But journal are something that are extended time window, meaning that it has extended page limit as well. It can involve 1 to 3 revision, and it very much comprehensive and self-contained. So that's why usually you need to focus on one type of contribution. If you have more than one contribution, then you should do another journal. Don't waste on only one paper to publish multiple contribution. So journal can be article that are original, theoretical, case study, perspective, opinion, commentary, book review, and so on. The interesting part is that you can have regular or special issue. Now we have a journal that support regular and special issue journal. So regular journal still the same as the normal journal, but the special issue have additional theme, and sometimes they are faster to be published compared to the regular journal. So it's very good to target for special issue journal if you able to, you know. And then think as a researcher or as a scientific researcher, right, you need to know what are the bibliographic database available for, research. And there are 2.5 million article published every year. So these are some of the top multidisciplinary research databases. So these databases provide digital object identifier, DOI. So whenever you publish in this either of these databases, it will be there forever, and there are no duplication and so on. So whenever it's indexed, it cannot be removed. And this actually is involving it kind of having source management, right? So it doesn't uh, easily being duplicated by third party and so on to duplicate your work and so on. It's very managed by professional people. Some may be discipline specific, like ERIC, right? It's for education, and PubMed maybe for medical association, and so on. And you need to understand that databases are different from search engine. And even for research database, you have meta databases that specialize for searching this research database. So whenever we talk about Scopus versus ISI, right? you need to understand that scopus are much larger coverage compared to Web of Science. Web of Science are focusing on much how to say much science based I think focus, and citation are better in terms of science, right? But in social science and humanities, right, the citation for scopus are better because uh, scopus provide better coverage for that particular area. And 99 and 99% ISI article also index in scopus, but not always true in the opposite, meaning that there are some that are not being indexed by Web of Science, but available in Web of Science, but are not available in scopus. Another thing is about impact factor and site score. So these are cytometric index of a journal, defined yearly based on number of citation and publication. So it usually indicate the importance of the journal within its field. So the difference here you can see for yourself, because we are nearly out of time. But the main point here is that comparison have been done in terms of site score and impact factor, right? Because SCS, you can see that SCS have a very good consistent site score, but Nature journal have a very high impact factor, but not very consistent, right, in terms of site score. This means that journal that being cited from the Nature have a lot of editorial and notes, not focusing only on article. So that's why uh, in site score they have they have you know they consider not only editorial but all of the publication inclusive. And then the journal quartile. So this actually show the ranking of your journal over the total journal in the specific category. So if you want to know your category, right, you need to identify your category first, meaning that let's say you're focusing on computer science, then find category of computer science and see the ranking of the journal within the computer science field. So then from there you can get the journal ranking based on that, and you can calculate which which are the Q1, which are the Q2, and so on. Usually, Web of Science will provide this quartile. Scopus also provide, but from the Scopus database. So that's why there are differences between Scopus and ISI database quartile. So usually, if you want to target certain journal, you can use journal recommender. So it's good, but not always reliable. So there are variety information that you can get from this journal recommender. IEEE Publication Recommender, Springer Nature Journal Suggester, Journal Finder, Elsevier Journal Finder, and so on. So you can see these are example that I've done for my research last time. Try to search for manufacturing research or operational research. And this you can see day to first decision. So you can decide which are the best for your research. And even sometimes you can get conferences, target conferences as well, just for IEEE. And then sometimes, let's say, if you still cannot find your target journal, right, you can find from your own paper citation, meaning from work that you consider from your work, or maybe from your draft, let's say, you can see all the journal from the one that you cite in your paper, right? Then it's functional but not always suitable, right? And you can actually count based on which one the most highly used in your citation, right? So you have better chance being accepted for that journal. And then other element, let's say for example cover letter. So I think most of the students think that cover letter are not very important, but cover letter actually cover letter are quite important, especially when you want to persuade the editor that your paper are good, uh, 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 good article for consideration in the peer review. Because usually editor will see cover letter first before looking to the paper. Then you need to understand that some journal will reject if you don't consider what kind of review process they done. For example, if they do single blind, then it doesn't matter if you put your name or not. But the double blind, you need to remove your name, remove any association, any institution information, and even some maybe allow for open review. So you need to consider that. And because of that, you need to have sometimes you need to have biography for each of the author, not just you, not just the corresponding author. So these are actually very, a lot of work, especially if you think that you can submit your paper within one night, then you're terribly wrong. Then reviewer, sometimes you need to recommend reviewer, you know. So I recommend someone from known colleague. Let's say you have someone or your friend that are closely in your area but not directly related to your research, then you can actually recommend them. And also sometimes your senior or mentors, or maybe if you don't have that, you can actually find expert in the field or domain, because if you do your research right, you know which people are the most important people in the field or the domain, who are the expert. If you still cannot find it, then you can actually find from your own reference. That's a good source of recommended review as well. You can see from your reference and see get their contact information and suggest as the recommended reviewer. Then highlight funding, structural differences. These are some optional, but sometimes they ask you anyway. So you need to identify them before you can actually submit your paper or your publication. Then before I finish the session, I think it's nearly done. Please bear with me. So the why. Usually, when you become author, right, there are certain level of contribution you need to make, and maybe you need to do some collaboration professionally with other people outside your institution, and you need to be responsible and credible. So you need to you need to negotiate whenever you uh how much authorship that you need in your scientific work. So these are survey been done previously. So the first part is where most researchers say if you done this, then you deserve authorship. If you don't, if you done this, then this doesn't really consider as authorship. But it varies. Because sometimes it's possible to be gift or ghost author. Meaning that you just want to invite for the purpose of having international collaboration and so on. If let's say the author that you invite doesn't mind, right? So it's okay to have it, but sometimes it's not very ethical. And then of course you're focusing on reward like prestige, promotion, and pay, right? So you need to have authorship in the publication. And participant can be anyone, such as lecturer, editors, collaborators, reviewers, student, and supervisor, depending on how much they contribute in the work itself. Example, the responsibility and obligation, and even supervision, funding, and presenting your paper also can award the authorship to that person. No, and you need to understand editorial peer review because it takes time. So sometime weeks, sometime months, right? So you need to account for this particular factor whenever you submit your publication. So if let's say you submit then you didn't get any response, right? You can contact editor to inquire the status of your publication. And if let's say they respond, I done this before, and they respond that they take more time because of they cannot identify alternative proper referee. So we can suggest alternative referee or alternative reviewer again to them so that they can speed up the process. But if you still cannot decide whether you want to submit to certain journal, right? You can actually contact the editor because you're dealing with people, right? So if you're unsure that your paper is good or not for publication in certain journal, contact the chief editor. Usually they will respond, you know. So instead of wasting time trying to submit all the details just now, right? You can actually, get a good feedback for your work before submitting. Then sometimes you need to consider open access journal. There are several benefits. Shorter publishing timeline, support preprint, but usually it's quite expensive. So whenever you get negative review or rejection, right, I would recommend doing this. No, because on a positive note, whenever you get rejected, you now they have a transfer service. Basically, whenever you get rejected, they will recommend your paper to be transferred to another more suitable journal, and that happened to me as well. I sent to a Q2 journal, and they rejected. And uh, of course, I at that time they don't have transfer service yet, right? So resend the journal to another Q1 journal actually, and it's got accepted without any correction. So yeah. So that's why don't feel that the rejection is the end of the world. That's why I believe that whenever you get rejection, take a short break and reflect on what is important. Try to think whether what are the problem or how you can address it. And these are important benchmark future for your future writing. No. And finally, doing research is art versus science. So you need time, you need to focus on one story. And the key point here is to make checklist question. Let's say you already have your draft ready. So try to make a checklist question whether is it good enough, is it have this sufficient component and so on. Okay. And then the human factor. So you need to understand that in order for your publication to be published, right, you need to make things easier for others as well. You need to understand the reviewer as well. Let's say the reviewer comment this, don't reply harshly. Try to be knowledgeable. Try to reply properly and courteously. Then they will respond in a good way as well. Communication is the key. Of course, you're dealing with people, you need to communicate. And then improving the sign. So sometimes there are no one method for all. You need to find your own way, right? So you need to identify incremental improvement. So as long as you have little progress, it's okay. As long as it's little, it's still progress. It's better than no progress. So you need to find what best for you. You do work at day, you need night or irregular, and what software you can use, example, and what are your writing style, you know, how you investigate, you need to identify which one the best for you. Then from there you can actually improve yourself. So on the final note, it's good to actually have a digital network to how to say publicize your work or increase your work visibility. Doesn't matter whether it's published or not. You know, you can use media presses and also preprint. So that's all from this session. Sorry, going overboard a little bit. So hopefully this helps you and everyone. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Doctor, for your time. Indeed, it was a great, fully information-packed session, which was very well organized. And
Yes.
I really apologize for your condition, for your coughing, but still you managed to deliver us in a very effective way. So much thanks for that.
Yeah, sure.
Now I would like our participants that floor is open for the questioning.
Okay.
So if anyone wants to have some questions, please. Or else I'm gonna start asking questions because I have quite a lot.
Yeah, you're welcome, Irma. Yeah.
Does anyone has any question? You can post in the chat, or you can just open the mic and ask the question.
Hello, Doctor. You said
Uh,
that there are link to arrive to the colloquium tomorrow. You didn't put in the chat.
Learn of colloquium?
Actually, this question and answering session is regarding the talk Dr. Akmal just delivered. Rest of the questions can be, answered a little bit later. Thank you.
Okay.
Yeah, if no one is willing to ask questions, then let me ask Dr. Akmal. I have a question
Yes, yes.
regarding your topic about mind the figure. You just indicated that we should use longer captions, but there's a general perception that shorter captions are like better, and because we can explain the figure in the discussion part, or maybe
Mm.
in the body of the paper. So what do you suggest, that like longer captions should be the preferred ones, or we should look like use normal captions and then later on explain those figures in the body of the paper?
Mm, I think it's not about longer or shorter caption. It's actually how you display your figure properly. If let's say your figure have all the numerical value and all the pattern being highlighted and all the interest point being pointed out properly, right? So you don't need a long caption for that. It's a good like you said, it's longer captions sometimes give a perception are not very good in a good way, right? So yeah, it happens sometimes, but of course, if let's say your figure are detailed enough, right, so you don't need a longer caption. Shorter caption is fine. But if let's say your figure, how to say, uh your figure cannot be explained in too much detail, right? You have a lot of data point within that figure itself, right? So you need to have a longer caption to help people understand the figure itself. That's the main point here. As long as the message is clearly indicated, then it doesn't matter you have caption longer or shorter. Yeah.
Okay, understood.
I hope I
Thank you.
answer your question.
Yes, yes, yes. Thank you so much. Another question, if anyone has any question, they can just interrupt me. Otherwise, I'm just going to ask the question.
Time your paper. I think they have one question here.
Okay.
Angbera Atul. Okay. At times your paper is rejected without reason. How can you go about this situation? So if you happen to have this kind of rejection without reason, right? If you want to know the reason, you can actually email the editor why they reject your paper. You know, because they don't reject without reason usually. They have their own reason, but they don't really, explicitly mention to you. You know, so if let's say they don't respond, then it better for you to consider other journal, because from there you can know that this journal are not very professional, not very good for you to publish your work anyway. You know, so if they want your work to be published, right, they should have a proper courtesy to actually tell you why they reject. And if they don't mention it, you can contact them to ask. Usually it's like that. They don't really reject without reason. Yeah. Hopefully that answered your question.
Let me just check the chat if we have any more question.
All right.
So Victor asked, what is the Scopus link I can use for journal paper search? The current link is Scopus Preview.
Mm. Scopus link I can use for journal paper search. Hmm. Let me check. I'm not sure as well. Uh, because I'm not sure what the access that you have so far. But usually, if you want to search for for the Scopus link, right, for journal paper search, right, you can use the Scopus source search, I think. If you go to scopus.com, right, they have search lists and sources, right. You can either use search or sources. You know? Sources actually search from particular journal. If you use general search, then it's going to be a lot of search, how to say, search parameter that you need to say included to effectively search the scopus.
Also, Victor, you can use your e-library of USM to, search out Scopus databases. It's has access to
Yeah,
USM students.
yeah. If you access to that, I think you can access it. Mm,
Okay,
okay. Hussein Attar Brawi asks, okay. The research is about trying new idea and take time to run experiment and get result. What if researcher tried many ideas, did not get state of the art result? Can the experiment be published? Uh, it depends how you put the context of your research. Sometimes if you don't get the state of the art result, right? If you try to highlight from other point of view, meaning that what are the uh, innovation or novelty that you introduce from your point of view? Because in my PhD study last time, I did have this kind of block in my experiment as well. I didn't get good result. I get just decent result, but there are one or two paper that still good, still better, you know. So I thought that I cannot publish this paper, but I did. I managed to publish two out of it. So yeah, from there I tried to find what are the other way to actually highlight the main idea of my research, meaning that from the experiment point of view, from the method point of view, from the process point of view. If because last time I focusing too much on approach, so because the approach is not good enough, I focus on the domain, focus on what are the problem I'm solving from this method compared to other method. So what you try to find the weaknesses from other method and try to uh, uh, took that and manipulate it to your advantage. You know, so that might work in your case. Yeah. Hopefully that answered the question.
thank you. We have another question by Marzu.
Okay.
Is the journal recommender system applicable to only indexed and Scopus journals, or you will have to evaluate further after the search results?
You have to evaluate further after the search result because journal recommender system usually will recommend uh journal that both index and non-index journal. Yeah, so sometimes non-index journal, but still under, let's say you search from Elsevier journal, right? Elsevier journal recommender. So they will give all the Elsevier journal usually, and some of it might not be, indexed by Scopus or ISI at all. You know, maybe it's a new journal being published by Elsevier, so they are not being indexed yet, for example. So they will still come out in the general recommended system, but you need to evaluate further. So yeah.
Right. So I'll take the last question due to the shortage of time.
Okay, okay, sure.
Uh, yeah, there's a question that, Doctor, at the beginning, you just said inductive and conductive. What is the
Hmm.
difference between them?
Uh, hmm. I forgot already actually. uh, how can I say? It's depending on your variable actually. So inductive is whenever you already have your problem and you try to induce the hypothesis. Okay, yeah, that's it. Yeah. But if deductive is when you already have your own hypothesis, you try to deduce the problem or deduce the solution. So I hope you understand that. Sorry, I didn't include that detail.
I hope that concludes the question and answer session. And I hope Dr. Akmal has successfully answered all the questions. Should we close it up now? Or any more questions? Okay. Thank you so much, Dr. Akmal, for your
Okay, you're
time,
welcome.
for your valuable knowledge sharing with us. So
Most
let's,
of them ask for the slide. Where should I give the slide? Should I give
yeah,
it to you or later?
yes, you can just email
Dr.
to
Gan?
us, Dr. Gen. Yes, yes,
Oh,
can,
okay, okay. All
can do.
right, sure.
Thank you so much.
All
Your
right.
slides are very much in demand.
I hope it's going to help everyone here to publish. It helped my colleague last time, so I hope everyone here can benefit from it. So, all right, thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you so much once again. So moving ahead towards our first day, we have now reached to the closing part. Now I would like to invite our main person behind this CSPC. She is the one of the driving forces that we have in School of Computer Sciences. She is very energetic and she is like unstoppable. Let me just call upon Miss Hazika Shamsuddin, the chair of this Colloquium 2022. Miss Hazika, over to you to say a few words with us.
Okay, thanks Asma. You can hear me, right? Can you hear me?
Yes, yes, we can hear you.
Okay. Hi everyone. Hazika Shamsuddin here, the chairperson for CSPC 2022. So it has been a great learning experience for all of us today. Hopefully, we begin today's session with the manuscript writing tips by our mentors. We have Prof. Rosni, Dr. Noraini, and also Associate Professor Dr. Umi, followed by the online poster competition, and it ended with an inspiring talk by Dr. Akmal. So to all our mentors, the online poster judges, and also the participants, and also not to forget Dr. Akmal, we sincerely thanks a lot for your contribution for this whole day one session. So to all members that joining us today for the WebEx, the online platform, thanks for joining, and we hope that you benefited from the session. And by the ending of our today's session, with the end of the session, for all the, I would like to just remind you for tomorrow. So this is just the first day of our CSPC. We have the second day of CSPC coming tomorrow. So I just to do a gentle reminder, do join us for the day 2 CSPC, and especially for those registered for our face-to-face session. We hope to see you at Olive Tree Hotel, Penang tomorrow. And we have few of them actually registered for to go to Olive Tree by bus. So don't forget to be at school by the time given. Do check your email. Okay, the reminder email for you to join for tomorrow's session is already sent. Refer to that email. And for those who interested to join us online for tomorrow's session, don't forget to join our live streaming. Live streaming will be available at our official school Facebook page. So hopefully everyone benefited from the session tomorrow and today and tomorrow's session. So good job everyone. Thank you very much. Have a good day ahead. Over to you, Asma.
Thank you so much, Ms. Hazika. So don't forget to join us tomorrow for the day 2 of CSPC 2022. This will be the physical session tomorrow, and we'll be having lots of more talking. And for those who cannot visit us physically, they are invited to join us via online streaming link of Facebook. The link has been shared. So please do join us tomorrow and stay tuned with us. Do keep checking your emails and also join our WhatsApp and Telegram, Facebook, Telegram groups to stay connected. Thank you so much. And regarding the schedule, don't forget to have a look on that. We would be having our opening ceremony at 9, and then will be a keynote graduate or time by Professor Zahren. There will be a poster evaluation competition at 10:45. Then there will be a forum session, opportunities post PhD, the way forward. And we are having interesting speakers and for panelists for this session. There will be a lunch break from 12:45 to 2, and then a 3 empty competition along with the coffee break. Also, to mention, we have another keynote, The Curious and Intuitive Mind by Professor Dr. Abdul Karim. The closing will be at 4:20, and in that closing session, there will be awards and the winners will get certificates. So don't forget to join us tomorrow. See you tomorrow. And now is the time for a photo. I would like to request Dr. Norakmal to please turn on his camera. I would like Miss Hazika and all the participants to let's just turn on their cameras, put their smiley faces, happy faces, so that we can have a few good clips.